Damn, check that out. What an awesome, awesome countdown. That's it. Show's over. This is, just kidding. This is Jeff. We're here on the chain, here with co-host Chip. He's over here somewhere. We've got an amazing guest with us tonight. There's a brand new platform that you guys have got to check out. I mean, this is going to be revolutionary. Let me introduce our guest here. He's the founding member of the Tachyon protocol. Just the name of the Tachyon protocol, man, that sounds cool as it is. Something straight out of like a comic book, you know, type of a thing out of sci-fi. I don't know, but this is going to be changing the internet as we know it, based on everything that we've seen and read so far. But check this out. Jacob is an entrepreneur, technology researcher. He's made numerous contributions to the open source distributed systems project. And he's with this Tachyon project that's actually, their objective is to make the internet open and free for all. What's up, Jacob? It's great to have you here.
Hey, what's up? Really good to be here.
Man, this is awesome. Chip, guess what? We're getting ready to start right now.
And now, Jerry Hall and XRP Carolina on the chain.
What was that?
That happens sometimes.
What was that?
That was
wrong,
really
wrong one.
That was really weird. You know what? I think we have to do it again. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
the block with Jeff and Chip on the chain.
Now,
Hey,
those
welcome
are the types
back.
of things
There we
that
go.
happen when you go live, Chip.
This is what happens when you go live. You know, you had mentioned that to me, Jeff. You said something about market conversations, and I was in there. And you know what? That happens, Jacob. That bad is on me. But I want to dive into this project because it's pretty cool. Like I spent last couple of days going over the white paper and looking at this project. So I guess the first question is, what is the Tachyon protocol?
Cool question. All right. So the Tachyon protocol is what nodes in the Tachyon network speak to each other and to users. So just for example, say the circle. It's not, I drew out of the camera. All right. Say you've got two nodes, right? And they need to collaborate on a piece of information. They would speak Tachyon protocol to each other. Now, let's say this node has a user, right? It would also speak the Tachyon protocol to that user. And the Tachyon protocol is a VPN protocol that encrypts traffic and also conceals traffic as other protocols. So just one example is that Tachyon protocol can wrap a full TCP session inside of UDP. It can also wrap a full TCP session inside of HTTPS, making it look like something else. And what that enables is for nodes to service users silently, bypassing, say, any filtering or censorship imposed by an internet service provider, and in some cases actually boosting speed as well, because in the case of our TCP over UDP design, that in many cases actually increases the speed of the connection. So you can think of the Tachyon protocol as kind of the base layer of Tachyon. It's implemented in Go, and it allows all of the communications on the Tachyon network. So whether that's between nodes, like in the case of the Tachyon DHT, which allows the nodes to kind of coordinate on different things, or between users, in the case of like Tachyon VPN, or later storage and compute services. So the VPN is kind of the first thing that we're launching on the Tachyon protocol. And actually the VPN is baked into the Tachyon protocol. It's kind of a piece of it.
Nice. Yeah, and you know, one of the things about VPN that people don't realize, they get a VPN, and one of the things that really they never really give any thought. They wonder what the price is going to be, everything else, but they don't realize a lot of these VPN services will sell your data. Like they might give you a really good deal. Sometimes they'll make it free. They'll go ahead and sell your data out the back door, and really it's a centralized type of a scenario. So you're only as good as to what you're connected to, and this is one of the very first problems that you guys are solving. So in a VPN sort of environment, when you connect, how are you protecting your users?
All right, so I'm going to walk through kind of the way that it works with a traditional VPN, and I'm also going to mention that in the field of centralized VPNs, there's definitely like good and bad providers out there, and I'm also going to mention that when you're using a VPN, centralized or decentralized, you do trust the endpoint. Right. So in the case of a centralized VPN, what we feel is the main weakness is actually the registration process. You register your name, your email address, your credit card information, and those, because of your login, can be linked to your identity. All of your traffic is going to pass through an endpoint controlled by that VPN company. And in that respect, we're the same, right? In Tachyon protocol, your traffic passes through endpoints controlled by users who are running nodes. So if you were to get the app, right, you would see sort of a selection of nodes, and your traffic, still passes through those endpoints. The difference is that we don't know who you are. We actually took great pains to ensure that our users could pay for VPN service without giving out their identity at any time. And the reason we went so deep into that was that we felt that that was actually the main weakness of current VPN models, basically that they're vulnerable to subpoena, for example. They have information on their users. We've built a solution where it's impossible for us to centrally keep information on the users. Now, to go a little bit into the threat model, because of course there is one, right?
Yeah.
A malicious Tachyon node could monitor your traffic, but couldn't know who you are. Also, any encrypted traffic that passes through that Tachyon node, so just for example, any website using HTTPS, that is invisible to them. And in that way, we're the same as a centralized VPN, because you're always trusting the endpoint that your traffic goes through. Soon, we're going to be introducing multipath routing, and that actually changes that, makes it a lot harder for a malicious node to identify you, because your traffic is going to pass through multiple endpoints. Your machine
it's like you're scrambling it, right? You're basically scrambling the signal. It's moving all over, so nobody will be able to really trace the.
That's correct, and that's enabled by our payment technology, actually.
Tell us more about that payment technology, because that was another thing that I found interesting in reading the white paper and taking a look at your site. Can you tell us a little bit, elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've actually just announced this and are basically editing the white paper for it now. Tachyon is the first user of a product that was actually designed for Tachyon by these systems. It's called Portal. And what Portal does is it allows users to deposit coins into a smart contract that's stored on the blockchain. We use the verbiage opening a portal, okay? And once you've opened a portal, that portal has an expiry time. It has a capacity, the number of coins that are in it, right? And it has a recipient, okay? And at that point, the user can send coins from the portal to the recipient without any blockchain transaction whatsoever. They're sent in just a basic like text message format, okay? And those messages act kind of like bearer bonds. So if I'm a Tachyon VPN user, right, and I'm downloading a torrent that's hitting, say, 10 megabytes a second, right? You pay every 5 megabytes, and those payments are just going to be streamed, okay? So what I'm saying is that at a 5 megabyte per second torrent, I'm actually paying twice per second in a stream to one node. And the way that this connects to the multipath routing is that since you're paying every 5 megabytes, you can pay multiple nodes and make requests from multiple nodes, and really be quite privacy conscious in that way by distributing your traffic through multiple endpoints. Now that feature is not quite up yet. It'll launch with Portal, and probably looking at like July or August for that. But that is one of the ways where we begin to really depart from the traditional centralized VPN model, because our users are going to be able to pay providers in real time very rapidly. And that sort of changes the one-to-one structure. In the normal VPN, it's user and server, right? One-to-one. But with Tachyon, it's going to end up being like, you could be 1 to 5 if you wanted to. And this is good in situations where there may be censorship from an ISP. It's also good in situations where you want more privacy and you don't want to trust the endpoint as much. Even in a one-to-many setting, you're trusting the endpoint to some degree, but it reduces that threat to the user. Then I think that kind of the last thing that I'm going to say about Portal, at least in this segment, is that without that Portal technology, this wouldn't really be possible. And those claim messages, the digital bearer bonds that I was describing, those can be claimed by the recipient at any time. So it's a little bit different from, schemes like Lightning or other implementations of payment channels because the settlement is actually, it can be as fast as 4 seconds. The user chooses the settlement time to reduce fees because the recipient is the one who pays the fee to take the funds out of the portal. So
Gotcha.
In the typical usage scenario, the recipient builds up these bearer bonds over time because each one is larger than the last one. And when they would like to settle it to the blockchain, they simply submit the largest message to the smart contract, and those funds are settled on chain to their address.
Gotcha. So a follow-up question to that is, what sort of a structure are you using to stream the payment itself? In other words, a digital token, what's actually doing that settlement in 4 seconds? What's actually behind the scenes making that happen?
All right. So that's an awesome question. Let me jump into it. So it all happens on the vSystems blockchain. And on the vSystems blockchain, there's a contract called Portal. Okay.
Gotcha.
And Tachyon has a token called IPX that also lives on the vSystems blockchain. So if I'm a Tachyon user, I would, and by the way, this is done in the app automatically. We've tried to make it so that the user needs to think as little about the token as possible. But when they fuel their account using the app, the IPX is deposited into a portal or portals, depending on how many provider nodes they're going to connect to. And those portals are filled with IPX, and the payments are streamed off chain to the node operators who are running the servers. And when the node operator chooses to claim the funds that are sitting in a channel, they just take the largest message and submit it to the contract. And in some cases, you would be looking at several of these messages being received per second. And actually, the recipient only needs to keep the last one because it's a part of Portal's design that, so in the first message, say I want to send you 1 IPX, right? So, okay, first time I send you 1 IPX. Say I want to send you 1 more IPX. Now I'm actually sending you 2 IPX. Now let's say I want to send you 3 IPX next, right? So then I send you 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 3 is 5, and you have a claim on 5. So you can actually disregard the original 2 messages. You could literally throw them out if you wanted to. It's probably not really the best practice. And just keep the last one. And as a node operator, your software would actually automate this for you.
Gotcha. So just a regular user doesn't really, they're not really that concerned about that, because I looked up that token. It's roughly right around 0.006, right? So how would you say that your VPN service compares to, let's say, because it's a different model because you're streaming payments based on usage, really. But if you would say, but on a normal VPN, they have like a subscription, right? You get for different tiers, you get different levels. So I wanted to find out what does it look like for, let's say, a standard, let's say a normal VPN, like $9.95 a month, but you get so much usage. But your model's different. Your model is you're streaming these payments in real time to these nodes, right? What's the difference, and how would it compare to like a traditional centralized VPN?
So that's a really great question. And I'm going to give you kind of a detailed walkthrough because already, even though we haven't implemented the session rewards, that's the fee payments by the users,
Yeah.
we've noticed some places where pricing is really likely to diverge, and those places are, first of all, different nodes are going to have different quality of service to different places. So, like, I originally operated nodes at vulture.com, and I still do. But I learned that they would hit their 1 terabyte traffic cap pretty quickly and begin to cost me, the node operator, about 2.5 cents per gigabyte over 1 terabyte. So I'd have to price that in. And Tachyon is at its heart a marketplace. So the node operator is completely in control of the pricing of like their node services. What we expect is that there are likely to be premium tier nodes that are charging more, but running on more expensive equipment. I can kind of give you an example of that. I run another node at a pretty well established German data center. It's pretty expensive. And that node actually moves about 1 terabyte a day. And the reason for that is it is really well peered. It's well connected to users around the world. There is a lot of fiber optic capacity to it. And so like that one would likely be a higher earner, but it's more expensive to operate. And so I might price it differently. Our first thought on pricing is 0.05 IPX per 5 megabytes. But so we're working out to about 6 cents per 100 megabytes.
Don't forget to carry the one.
6 cents per 100 megabytes or so.
And
right.
So it's reasonable. I mean, you're reasonably priced. How do you get the what is it, IPX? Is that what it is? Is it?
Yeah.
How do you get the token? Is it something that's given when you register, or is it something that you're paying for on the site on an exchange? Where exactly do you access it?
Okay, so at present, the app is actually free, and you do not need to get IPX. And the reasoning behind this is that we want to kind of stress test the network before introducing payments. And that is going quite well. Now, in terms of where you can get it, if you go to our site, there are a number of exchanges listed where you can get the IPX token. And later on, what we anticipate is white label providers who actually bill users in a manner similar to traditional VPNs, but abstract the user's identity from that process using the token. So our thought is that people are likely to want to pay with a credit card, and we should allow them to do that, but we should ensure that their identity is never tied to their tokens.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, you got to do that, and then you're protecting their identity on the VPN. So that's an interesting concept. To how are you going to accomplish that?
So probably through white label providers who actually handle that that transition with the token. Another model that we've looked at is accepting other cryptocurrencies to get it, but probably probably the white label is, we assume, going to be most popular with users. Basically, the way that this would work is that the white label provider would deal with it, get the token on an exchange, and get it to the user. Now, how to deal with the question of fully decoupling the user's identity, that is actually something we're still working out, but it's probably going to involve Coil, the payment channel technology that should enable an additional hop that obscures the end user.
That's it. That's great. Yeah, that's it. Hey, I just wanted to make just do a little side note to the tech. The technology is amazing, you know, and what you guys are accomplishing is pretty phenomenal. But I think it's important also to highlight some of your co-founders in the project, so people, you know, that are listening kind of get an idea of, you know, kind of where you've come from and some of the others that are that you're working with, like Sonny King, who's the inventor of proof of stake consensus. So, you know, and actually, Sonny King also creator of what, 3 other cryptocurrency projects.
That's right.
So yeah.
Sonny was really enthusiastic about Tachyon because it, you know, provided privacy, and also was, you know, we attempted to build Tachyon on Ethereum. And you can even go to our GitHub. You can see a Solidity contract. That did not work.
Didn't work.
Yeah, well, bottom line, it wasn't fast enough. And we also looked into the payment channel solutions, and they didn't quite fit the use case. So what ended up happening was that we, you know, began to look into how to do this faster. And that's kind of what pulled Sonny into the, you know, this particular project was the engineering challenge surrounding that. And of course, he, you know, values privacy very heavily, him being pseudonymous and all that. Alex Young, so he's the CEO at V Systems, and, you know, jumped in because this is the first ecosystem project for V Systems, and so wanted to see it through. And of course, is a cryptocurrency advocate, and saw what we could do if we figured out a way to pay for VPN traffic in real time. And so, you know, as you can see from the V Systems side, there's a lot of effort into figuring out how to crack these payments. Then there is Pure Chemist. Pure Chemist has probably known Sonny King the longest of any of us. He is currently leading the PureCoin project and the PureCoin Foundation, and was brought in, you know, also through those shared values surrounding privacy. You know, just very enthusiastic about bringing better privacy solutions and also the payments technologies behind it. And, you know, for myself, I was really interested in what we could build once we had so many servers. So the VPN is going to enable Tachyon to build a network of thousands of machines controlled by thousands of people around the world that talk to each other silently. And the VPN basically saturates their network connection. It really, really uses it, right? Especially since our user count has grown so high. But it doesn't touch the CPU or hard disk capacity. And later on, we're going to be able to layer on a lot of additional features. So those are kind of the things that brought the team together. And probably the one common thread there is just this desire for improved privacy. Uh,
Huge.
That's important.
That is.
Privacy and security.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Right.
one of the things we talk a lot about on this channel. I mean, so I wanted to read something from your white paper that intrigued me. Probably the one things that I pulled out, but it says the existing lack of trust and security in internet privacy, along with the aging infrastructure, inhibits the internet in providing the speed and reliability required by current network-based Web 3.0 services, such as DeFi and other complex applications. To bring a new solution in resolving these issues, Tachyon Protocol utilizes the existing and widely accepted platform while eliminating the very idea of centralized servers where proxies, VPN, cloud storage, CDN, DeFi, or other services would require a sturdy, secure platform to do their businesses on. And one of the things that really hit for me, especially on the CDN side as well, because it's one of the things we really haven't delved into at all, was the whole idea of CDNs. You're basically not looking at this as a very narrow solution. You're looking at it as a wide solution on the Tachyon protocol. As far as like the TCP/IP, I mean, we're going back to 1983. Okay, last time I checked, it was 2020. Okay, so you have some aging in the network. You got some speed difficulties. And much the same way that you had CDN providers coming out, making the internet a better place because they had multiple points to be able to access from, I think we're kind of getting something very interesting where you built in not only to this model the decentralization, but you've also built in competition on this VPN model, because now people are competing over price. And anytime you make competition, I always find that you have a better opportunity for growth, because now you get all these people involved and now they're competing against each other. And I really like the fact that you guys have done that, but I wanted to go back to this one specific thing in here, because you say on the white paper, it says utilizing the existing and widely accepted platform. Are we talking about, when we say platform, what are you specifically talking about in that particular instance?
So what we're talking about in that particular instance is actually the current internet infrastructure, right?
Gotcha.
So we're on the widely accepted platform, and what we do is basically create this new protocol on top of it. It does not, fully replace everything that has come before, but instead it provides this new secure pipework that allows, one, the servers to communicate privately, two, the servers to communicate to users privately, and then three, the servers to run arbitrary jobs. And that third point is not built yet. Well, kind of is. What I mean by that is that the VPN is actually the first of those arbitrary jobs. It's actually a task for the Tachyon network. But later down the line, as I mentioned about like the excess compute and storage capacity on Tachyon nodes, that'll come into play as well. And we will begin to utilize that and actually sell it off, so that users, say like developers, can launch apps on the Tachyon network of servers, and they'll have different characteristics.
So you guys are really, I mean, what you're putting together here, I mean, it's really, it's kind of revolutionary, it seems like. I mean, making these, even if it's, innovating on top of, what's there, but really making some big changes like, Chip was saying, I mean, moving from technology from the 80s, and I think back to, some of the protocols that, changed the internet, when we have like Acme, how it really made a major impact on the speed of the internet, at that point in time, and that, impact it had on everything else moving forward. If it hadn't been for that, where would we be today? I mean, what are you thinking, as you're putting this together? So a number of years from now, people are going to look back and say, if it hadn't been for an adjustment to the TCP/IP, allowing for a speed up, more security, more privacy, but faster experience, how do you, if you were, 5-10 years from now, how do you look back on, the impact that you could potentially have in the space?
So I think that the way, if we look back from 5 years from now, right, it's not really going to be from adjustments to TCP/IP, because mainly what we do, right, is we encapsulate it and we send it over other protocols. But instead, it's going to be a topological question about how servers are organized and nodes are organized. Um, Instead of one node handling one task, we're going to see many nodes handling one task, and the cost of running an application across many nodes dropping dramatically. On the VPN side, I think that we're going to quickly see that we allow users to choose between the best nodes for them and also the best pricing for them. And what that is going to change is likely the pricing model. That's really something we're going after on the VPN side, is like, it's not really a fixed fee situation. There are many VPNs that you can get for 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks a month. But sometimes you just need a little VPN, or sometimes you need a lot, but it needs to be very high quality and fixed service. Our node operators can brand themselves however they'd like. They can create, websites with marketing material, description about their nodes. They can also be pseudonymous. They can also be anonymous. However they'd like to structure that. And so the users are going to get a lot more choice. But maybe to just jump back to what's going to be the big change after 5 years, it'll be the topology, because we're going to make it possible to put your app on 100 machines easily. We're going to make it possible to put your file on 100 edge machines easily and cheaply, and have that retrieved from many places in the world.
So one of the things too is, like, most of the time, if you have, let's say, like a Google or like an Apple or something, and you have an app that runs on, let's say, for their mobile, right? For their mobile devices, they take something off the top. So for somebody who is, in other words, on the VPN, who's running these nodes, what sort of how do you guys monetize, right? So in other words, because you got to pay for I know they're running the nodes, but there is an expense associated with this. And so what does that fee look like? And for like the node operator, are they getting a percentage of what somebody's looking at? In other words, they offer a price, and you're streaming payments for whatever megabytes or whatever it looks like. How are you guys monetizing this whole model, and are you taking a part of that, or how does that look?
Okay, so Tachyon does not take a part of any of the fees that go to node operators. That's a direct, like, one-to-one payment. They go directly to the node operators. And I'll walk you through the economics of running nodes, because I run several different types personally now, and it's actually something that I'm trying to study, address, and summarize, because part of the answer to this is we don't yet exactly know what the market is going to bear in terms of fees. So I run nodes that cost between $5 and on the low end, and €80 per month on the high end. The nodes that cost €80 a month get about 30 times the traffic as the nodes that cost $5 a month. And the $5 a month nodes also do not include unlimited bandwidth, whereas the €80 a month nodes do. So there is one additional expense to being a node operator, and that's staking 20,000 IPX. So I believe that the current price is about $1,200. So what that does is it allows the node to connect to the Tachyon DHT. That staking mechanism is there to protect the network from malicious actors when the nodes begin to collaborate with one another. At present, it's just users talking to nodes, but when the DHT launches, nodes will actually be talking to other nodes. And there's a concern about, let's say, a 51% type of attack. If somebody were to control the majority of nodes and then nodes were talking to other nodes, somebody could attempt to capture traffic in like the multipath routing type scenario, where traffic is passed between multiple nodes before being delivered to the user. So that's kind of why the staking exists. And that staking gives the user initially, before the launch of fees, a 10% sort of staking reward, which would cover certainly the cost of putting up that node pretty quickly. But the most important thing about the staking is network security. It's there to ensure that somebody cannot 51% attack the network. Then after the launch of fees, right, each node operator is going to determine the fees on their own. And kind of a guideline that we've come up with is 0.05 IPX per session, but it's a competitive marketplace, and so it's hard to actually predict what that fee will be.
So that's it's interesting. I mean, as we're talking about the VPN, we're talking about the different costs. I mean, you're also getting into streaming payments.
Yeah.
So you're kind of breaching this barrier of you take these different models of what you're constructing, creating this different, faster experience, more secure experience, looking for a mechanism to protect people's privacy, where at the same time, while you're talking about this, you're building a mechanism for streaming payments. Now, do you see that you could potentially take this model, and you've already talked about, giving people the ability to build an app on the platform and do other things? I mean, are you seeing that the streaming payment model is something that could be, moved over to something else outside of the VPN structure? So if you have someone building in the environment, they can utilize the streaming payment solution for something else. I mean, it seems like it's a very important utility to plug in.
So the portal payment rail is basically how we feel that everything connected to Tachyon is going to be paid for. So for example, if you store files across a set of Tachyon nodes, you're likely to pay for it in IPX using Portal. If you pay for computation across Tachyon nodes, you're likely to pay for it in IPX using Portal. And the reason that you'll be using Portal is that a lot of these transactions happen at machine speed. And so it just makes sense to continue using the Portal payment channel for that.
All right. Well, here's a question for you and I thought it was just I meant to put it up earlier. It has to do with streaming payments, but Zhao was wondering if somehow your innovations will allow humans to upload themselves into the cloud to live forever. Is that a possible scenario of what?
Well, okay, we've all thought about that, but I mean, honestly, probably not, because we're not making the shall we say, the needed brain machine interface that you would need to take your consciousness to get it into the cloud to live forever. That's not really.
But it could be a starting point, right? You get someone else to build it on top of your point, and then maybe you're opening up that opportunity, right?
You might be able to store your consciousness in the cloud on top of Tachyon servers, but
there we go.
Part is kind of out of scope.
But you don't have that part. You don't have the brain saved mechanism yet. I just want to give a quick shout out to Jet Digital for the donation to On the Chain, enjoying the conversation. We have some, quite a few people in the space in the On the Chain community that really get into the in-depth aspect of the technology conversation. And let's see here. Here's a question here from Crypto Cat. Will this work with quantum integration?
I assume that CryptoCat is talking about quantum cryptography and post quantum cryptography to defeat quantum computers. The answer right now is no. And the answer, if that becomes necessary, is yes. I had the opportunity to consult with a company about a year ago that did specifically post quantum crypto, and the way that I came away feeling about that, right, was that it's actually for now kind of an imaginary threat. And if it were ever to be a real threat, say to example for Bitcoin, right? Let's forget Tachyon altogether, because people ask me this question all the time about Bitcoin. So let's say that quantum computing threatened Bitcoin and the encryption that it used. We would simply replace the encryption, and that answer is the same for Bitcoin and the same for Tachyon. And there is an emerging set of post-quantum cryptography libraries being researched mainly out of the U.S. National Science Foundation, but also some in China as well. And so my whole feeling on quantum computing attacks on, say, like digital currency technology is that if that becomes a viable threat, there are technologies to deal with it that are available.
Boom. Well said. Well said. So I wanted to bring up something else. It turns out that you and I kind of grew up in the same sort of neck of the woods, which was kind of interesting. We were talking about this a little bit before, and it was like I was pretty amazed to see somebody from, like, more or less my hometown go out there and do big things. And if you could just tell the viewers where you're located right now, where you're doing this, you're actually in the future right now.
Yeah, I am in the future, aren't I? So yeah, today's May 19th for me, and I'm in Hanoi, Vietnam. I'm actually at a recording studio called Katana Studios, where they help me record really awesome videos.
That's awesome, man. It's cool because it's like so bright and cheery here, and Jeff and I are kind of like doom and gloom here. No, we're a little bit, it's like nighttime. We're winding things down, and over there, it's like just. I feel like you should have a coffee or something in your hand or something along those lines, just to. And you're so like awake or so early in the morning, man. It's really good to see that. Hey, I wanted to ask you, where's the rest of the team located? Are you guys all situated in Asia, or where are you guys spread out over the world, or where are you?
We are literally all over the world. Some
Gotcha.
team members are, like, I would not disclose. Some team members are in Europe. Some team members are in the States. So yeah, quite distributed. We also have a couple of members in Hong Kong.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's good. I mean, that's how I'm seeing most blockchains happening, blockchain-based companies or people that are trying to change the future. One of the things that attracted us to the project is we talk a lot about it on here. We talk about censorship. We talk about privacy. One of the things I like about it when I read the white paper and your site is how you're able to disguise traffic like that. I think it's a little too technical for maybe here, but I love the way you're able to wrap something and send it through and it looks like something else. So nobody would pay any mind to it because they don't recognize what it really truly is. And that's a really nice way to, I don't know, it's kind of masking it in a way, but the ID looks like a different type of traffic. And I thought that was really cool, especially when we're looking at how do we protect, going into 2020 and 2030, 2040 and beyond. Where do you see, and this is really, asking you, Jacob, the entrepreneur and the guy who's helping change some of the things we see coming up. Where do you see us going? Let's say 2030 rolls around. What are we going to be different worldwide when it comes to privacy? Where do you see us headed?
Worse and better.
Good answer. Okay, next. Okay, I'm just kidding.
Well, no. If you want, I can kind of go into some more detail there. Like,
please do. Yeah, elaborate if you could.
On the worst side, I think that in our everyday lives and public spaces, we're going to be identified instantaneously through facial recognition, through gait recognition, and that most public spaces will not have a sense of anonymity any longer. Interestingly, online, I'm proud to say that Tachyon is not the only project that is working really hard on privacy. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, right.
That's
There
important.
are a number, and I think that overall, online privacy is likely to improve. I think that in the cryptocurrency space, there's a lot of very interesting work being done on, just for example, moving Bitcoin, which personally I consider kind of the monetary base of all cryptocurrency. I'm not really a maximalist of any sort, but kind of trying to give Bitcoin its due as as the lead dog and most stable. Thing is, the Bitcoin blockchain is very likely to fill up, and people already want to, for example, move Bitcoin across Ethereum or move Bitcoin across different networks. And I think that we're going to see a ton of that. And interestingly, those transactions can also have better privacy characteristics. So I think that cryptocurrency privacy is actually going to end up becoming a second layer feature. Most mainnets don't have much privacy, and I actually think that's fine. But you can create second layers. Shout out to local Vietnam-based project Incognito, which has built a private second layer for Bitcoin and Ethereum, which also, kind of happens to scale Bitcoin because it provides more capacity. You're moving Bitcoin over a proof of stake network. And, on Ethereum, you have wrapped Bitcoin, tethered Bitcoin. On Visas, we'll soon have something called VBTC, a Bitcoin pegged token. And I think that all of this intermingling, right, this interconnection between chains is going to yield much better privacy for cryptocurrency users, also because they're going to be able to go around the exchange at some point.
Mm-hmm.
We're not there yet, but I think that in 10 years we will get there.
What do you think about privacy coins? Do you think they're going to make it in the long run? Just based on what you're saying, do you think they're going to run into some trouble with regulatory, or like, what's your thought on projects like Monero and the like?
So
Elixir.
I don't own any Monero, but I like Monero. And I know a few Monero enthusiasts who really told me, the Monero pitch quite effectively. And I also have seen like Monero wrapped on top of the Incognito project. I thought that was very interesting as well. So in this case, the already private Monero goes on to Incognito and can be moved more quickly than it can on the Monero layer 1. I was a very early miner of Zcash, which I've always found quite interesting, although I have some like reservations about their founders' incentive and possibly the way that the encryption is implemented, so that transactions are by default in the clear and only by option, shielded, I think is the term that they use. But I've always found that project pretty interesting. And I think that Grin is another good one. You mentioned one, though, another privacy coin, Elixir.
Yeah, Elixir. Well, the coin's not named Elixir, but this is David Chaum's project. Where the name of the company is Elixir. I always forget the name of the actual coin because but Elixir is the company, and David Chaum's like legend in the space, and his whole thing is how if you study the project and the way the coins work about how they scrub privacy, it reminded me a little bit about what you guys are doing too. It's like a very similar type of thing because what they do is they shift everything around in its transmission, so it creates another layer of privacy coin. Unfortunately, being in the U.S. here, we're prohibited from usually participating in some of these coins because I followed them. Once Chom announced the project, I'm a fan of his, so I try to see what he's up to, and he's just an interesting guy, man. Because you look back, he was way before his time. Back in the day, but that's his project. And again, the coin, do you know what the coin's called, Jeff, by chance?
I don't, but now I know which project you're talking about. Now that you
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah, that's the guy we're talking about. So he's got a pretty cool project too, and we've seen all kinds of things moved on different rails. Proxys, that's it. Proxys is the name of it. Thank you, CryptoCat. You are the man, or the lady, or whoever you are, or whoever
The
you
cat.
are. If you're the
CryptoCat.
cat, you're a cat, man. Maybe you're genderless. I don't know. Could be anything at this point. But you're a cool cat. Yeah, Proxys is the name of the actual token itself. But check out that project. It's pretty cool, man. There's a lot of energy behind it. It kind of reminded me a little bit about what you guys are doing, kind of mixing up stuff. So be curious to maybe hear back from you if there are some similarities there.
Yeah, I'll have a look. Wasn't he one of the early MixNet researchers?
Was it Mixnet? Let me see. Let me look at what was his first digital cash called, Jeff? CryptoCat, just tell us. Let's bring CryptoCat on here. He seems to know a lot about this
I know.
project. CryptoCat, what is I'm trying to think of what Chom's first digital cash project was, and it was just way too early. Sometimes you're way ahead of your
Yes.
time, and yeah.
And just way ahead.
Yeah, you can be way ahead, but so yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I feel like we really only scratched the surface here. There's so much more we probably could get into and really start discussing. But what you guys are setting out to do is something welcome, especially on the chain here. We talk about privacy, we talked about protection of freedoms because it's all connected. Your privacy is part of your freedom and your identity. And when that starts going awry and it starts to be okay, we've seen this global beer virus, I will call it, this sort of affect the way people are reacting. They're okay with, they're finding out what it's like to get Elixir. There you go. Yeah, Elixir's the name of the actual company, but I'm trying to think what the actual name CryptoCat of the David Chaum original digital cash project was. And the name escapes me. But as we go down the road to doing this is the kind of projects we embrace, and we want them to succeed and gain mass adoption. So user-wise, you guys have you guys have gained a lot of users right out of the box, right?
Yeah. So actually, that's been something that's totally blown us away. We're up to above 300,000 now.
Wow.
It's impressive.
Nice. Now I find it interesting, 300,000. And right now, if I wanted to download the VPN, I can download it on Mac, on iOS, on Android.
Yeah.
But not on Windows.
Not on Windows.
Boom. I love this guy already, man. Bam. Boom. You see what I'm saying?
Windows is coming shortly. It's the largest desktop platform, and we certainly want to support it. But it is not. The network programming really isn't quite the same because it's not Unix. So it's what can I say? We're releasing it last. It should be out in about 2 weeks, though.
Okay.
The Windows client, and
You go.
our biggest user base right now is really on mobile, and probably the mobile app is. Can I say it's more polished than the desktop version. It's definitely where more of the development focus has been put. The mobile app, for example, can automatically select servers for you, and it can switch between HTTPS and TLS automatically. And those features are kind of upcoming on the desktop application. But user growth, let's talk about it for a second, because it was amazing and humbling. Really. So like we launched this thing and relatively little like fanfare, right? Our initial beta was like truly just that, like very, very alpha, very early stuff. I believe when we first launched, Android only, Mac only, and then we have this thing called the Node Manager that lets people put up servers. And so we launched with those three pieces of software, and okay, one day, a couple hundred users. Next day, we hit 1,000 users. We hit 1,000 users, and
Amazing.
It just kept building and building and building. And so right now, I mean, what we're actually trying to establish ourselves as is really well known, really reliable, totally free VPN. We want to test out every piece of the network architecture. So that includes like running the nodes. I personally run our node operator community, which is basically, a group of people who have sort of seen an early opportunity in Tachyon, and they want to run nodes themselves. And so that's another piece that actually requires testing, is like, how do we get enough skilled people to operate nodes to handle the traffic capacity of now 300,000 users? At our current growth rate, we'll hit 1 million in July. And
Insane.
it is insane. It's amazing. Like
It's beyond what you would probably even like forecasted, even if you were being like beyond conservative, right? It's a really amazing growth stream. It's just, hey, you know what it tells me is, it tells me that there's a yearning for this, right? So yeah. I know that I think we lost you on the camera, but you're still there, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. So by the way, we're coming up on time. I know you're in the middle of the rolling blackouts. No, this is actually just because of the studio you're at, has to do with this. But I wanted to. There he goes. Boom, and he's in, and that was a fast change.
He's in a whole different studio.
Bam! Look at this.
They shrunk him down.
Boom, and there he goes in. He's in, and boom, there he is. That's cool, man.
It was mini Jacob for a second.
Right.
While we're going through all this, I downloaded the VPN.
Oh, cool.
And now I'm part of the Tachyon protocol.
Yeah, I gotta get. I can't wait to get on it myself.
So like that,
especially on mobile.
And it's amazing, the fastest server. That was probably the best experience I've had installing a VPN.
Thank you.
You get the protocol. What's the best protocol? Look at that. There's protocols, HTTP. Look at that. Nice. Look at that.
So
boom. Now it's connecting.
Both HTTPS and TLS work well. Sometimes on 4G, TLS doesn't work. I was helping a user kind of debug that last night, actually.
I'll start working on that tonight, Jacob. We'll see if we get something by tomorrow, next day.
Get on that.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I was gonna say, look, we're coming up on time, man. What a great conversation. This was really exciting for me. I love this tech stuff. I love anybody who's forging ahead and working on a speed, privacy, streaming payments, all things that are, and what we talk a lot about on this channel. So I wanted to say, Jacob, on the way out, is there anything else you wanted to leave us with, or leave us the viewers with?
Well, I mean, I guess that really just that, at Tachyon, our long-term mission is to provide privacy coupled with speed. And if that's something you're interested in, I'd really like to encourage the viewers to check us out in 2 ways, right? So for somebody who'd like to just be a user, please download the app, test it out, and if there's a bug, or even if it's not so fast, let us know, because the service quality varies around the world, and it's also going to vary by the server that you connect to. And right now, we're literally learning how the network operates. So far, it's gone quite well, but the feedback is incredibly useful, even the negative feedback. If something doesn't work, please let us know about it. And then if you are more technically minded and you want to check out Tachyon, then please hop on our website, download the node manager, and put up a node. And you can also tweet at us or hop in our Telegram and join the node operator chat. And we can kind of support you through that. We have different bandwidth monitoring tools, for example, and all the node operators are really supporting each other there. It's really excellent. And it's, sort of the opportunity for people to potentially earn from Tachyon that exists through the node operator program, which, what can I say? You basically become a service provider as a node operator. Initially, you're selling bandwidth. Later on, you may be selling compute or storage as well.
And then later on, you may be selling a kidney. No, I'm just kidding. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's
Chip. You can download it because it's on Mac. So
no, I'm going to definitely. Oh, this is, it's weird. I'm very weary about these VPN companies. I use other stuff, and I'm always weary. They're not transparent. Oh, we're cheap, we're free, we're this, we're that. Yeah, okay, I know. You don't disclose anything to your users. I got to say, Jeff, anything else before we get out of here tonight?
No, this was really interesting. We definitely learned a lot. Got a new VPN. We're going to keep following your project.
Awesome.
I think like Chip was saying earlier on, it's all about really finding mechanisms to protect our freedoms. Making sure that whatever we do, whether it's online or offline, that we're secure and free. And that's the whole concept in the decentralized blockchain space. We get into it a lot in this on this show. We get into the Constitution, First Amendment, Second, etc. But it all goes back to that. And what you guys are doing, man, keep up the good work. Like I said, we're going to keep following the project. Hopefully have you back on again and talk more about after Chip sets up the node. Hopefully it doesn't crash your systems, but
no, man, no one do that. We're not gonna do any crashing, Jeff.
Right? No, kidding. No,
just diving.
If it does crash it, that's great. We're in beta, and we learn from
right.
it.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. Well, this is one of the. Yeah, I was gonna say, this is one of the things that I love about Jacob GADIKIAN. Did I get it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, GADIKIAN. I was like gonna go somewhere else, and I'm like, I can't, man. Yeah, so one of the cool things, I love this. You are building the airplane as you're flying it, and that's awesome. You're like hitting the ground running. You're doing your thing. You're working out the bugs. You're being transparent. This is really an awesome project. So thank you again, Jacob, for joining us off the block on the chain. And this is Chip, Jeff, and Jacob, and we are out of here. Thank you, everybody.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.